Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to my channel, Do Ministry Gaming, and today I'm going to be walking you through an Atlas progression strategy called the Leapfrog strategy. Now, I did not come up with this strategy. It is pretty popular already among the community in terms of how it works, but I'm just here to explain it from another perspective for anyone who has not familiar with what this is or how it works or have tried it before and want something better in terms of a strategy to complete the Atlas. Now, what the leapfrog strategy is that it is a systematic, logical way of progressing your atlas from tier 1 maps and 0 watchstones to tier 16 maps and 32 watchstones. And there's two benefits to running a systematic strategy like this. The first benefit is that if your goal is to get to 32 watchstones as fast as possible or to get to high tier maps as fast as possible, the leapfrog strategy has been proven to be one of the fastest, if not the fastest way to complete those goals. And those are very common goals within a league start scenario. And if executed properly, I have seen some people get to all of their watchstones within the first day of the league. The second benefit, of course, is that it is a systematic, logical approach to completing your atlas versus before I learned about the leapfrog strategy or any strategy involving Atlas completion, I would just bumble around and try to do maps as many as I can that are uncompleted and randomly insert watchstones. And when you do that, you can make mistakes. You can end up running a Conqueror in an area that you've already obtained a watchstone for. And when you do that, it's a colossal waste of time because you've essentially wasted that one Conqueror on an entire cycle of Conqueror spawns, which means in order to complete that last one at the end, you're going to have to do one more full rotation just to get that final completion because you double completed it on one region. And so having a systematic way prevents you from making mistakes in terms of spawning the Conquerors properly. All right, so one more thing is that this type of strategy is for a player who is already familiar with how the Atlas works. So if you are a newer player or you're not fully up to speed or up to date on how the Atlas works and all the mechanics, especially the Conquerors, I do have a video on my channel, which I'll link in the description below, that is a full, complete Atlas guide that walks you through step by step of how everything works on the Atlas and all the different mechanics, including the Conquerors, Maven, and how maps drop. And so if you'd like a refresher on that, go ahead and check that video out as a primer for this video here. All right, so assuming you have all the Atlas mechanics down pat and you understand how maps drop, etc., I will dive right into the strategy. Now, the core of the strategy is that whatever region you're working on, you are at the same time dropping maps for the next region that you're going to work on. Okay, so you're really doing a 1-2 punch and working your way around the Atlas to essentially two regions at a time. The region that you're working on spawning the Conqueror and collecting maps at the same time for the next region that you're going to be running. Now, just keep that in the back of your mind. All that's going to become very clear as I walk you through the strategy, but that is essentially the core of the Leapfrog strategy. And so I've got the Atlas open here, and I've got all the watchstones unsocketed to simulate sort of the beginning of the league situation when you first encounter the Atlas. Now, of course, when you do, all of this will be uncompleted. It'll be a fog of war. And as you probably already know, is that maps start to drop in Act 8 of the game as you complete the campaign, and they will be these tier 1 maps in the center. So those will be the only ones that you have at the beginning of the Atlas, and so you have to complete them. So you're basically starting in the middle 4 regions of the Atlas. Now, the first rule of the Conqueror spawn is that the first 4 Conquerors can only spawn in the corners, and they have to be all 4 corners. And so as you do maps in the inner regions, nothing's going to happen. So basically, the first thing you're going to want to do is when you start in the middle regions, whichever region you start in, is to make your way out to the corner region as fast as possible. So let's say you started in Coves here in Turn's End. The shortest way or the quickest way to get to the outside would be to complete the wharf and then to get to the cemetery. So you basically want to step out to the corner as fast as you can. Now, with that said, if you complete an extra map or two within the region before you get out to the corner, no worries at all. But some people like to just take the shortest path. And so, of course, as you run coves, you have a chance of dropping wharfs. And when you run wharf, you have a chance of dropping cemetery because these are connected. So when you make your way out to the corner, that's when you start to do as many maps in the corner as you can in the same region until the Conqueror spawns. And when the Conqueror spawns, you have to kill it, and you'll get the first Watchstone in that region. Now, obviously, the ideal way to do it is to start to spam maps, as many as you can that are uncompleted, so that you get the completion and the Atlas bonus at the same time as spawning the Conqueror. All right, so once you've killed the first Conqueror in the corner, you basically have to do the same for the other 3 corners. Now, while you're doing the next 3, as in after you get your first Watchstone, what you're going to want to do is immediately socket into one of the inner regions. It doesn't matter which one. However, it is typical to put it into the inner region that is connected to the first corner that you do, because you have some completed maps in that region, right? So if you recall, if I had done Turns End first, I would have coves completed and I would have wharfs completed, right? And so when I socket this Watchstone in, you can see that the coves map is now a tier 4 and a wharf map is now a tier 6. So these will be 2 completed maps on Turns End, assuming those are the only 2 that you did when you made your way to Haymark Hamlet. And these are present on the Atlas and completed, which means they now have a chance to drop. So with this Watchstone socketed in this region, as you do the other 3 corners, so let's say you're doing New Vastir, you now have a chance to drop the Wharf map, which is a tier 6 yellow map, right? And so anytime you're running a tier 4 map in New Vastir, if you kill the boss, if you recall the rules, you have a chance of dropping +2 map. You can drop the Wharf. Or if you run a tier 5 map like the Shrine, you also have a chance to drop the Wharf map now from Magic or Rare Packs, which is map tier +1, right? So as you're doing New Vastir, you are essentially collecting Wharf maps on Tyrn's End. Same thing as when you make it to the next corner, Lyra Arthane and Lex Ejoris. As you do the rest of those 3 corners, you're going to be collecting a map pool for Turn's End that has Wharf in it. Now, once you've completed the 4 corners, you will have 4 Watchstones at this point. However, the other 3 you'll just have housed in the storage space. You're only going to have 1 socketed throughout that whole process. And if you did that, then right now you should be sitting on a whole bunch of tier 6 wharf maps, okay? And so the next region that you're going to move into is going to be Turn's End, and you're going to start to run these wharf maps. Now from there, what you're going to do is you're going to take the other 2 Watchstones, or 2 of the other Watchstones that you've collected, and you're going to socket it into an area that is adjacent to Turn's End. So whether that's Glennick Cairns or Lex Proxima, it doesn't really matter. But the idea, again, here is as you're doing Turn's End and running these wharf maps, because they're tier 6 now, you have a chance of dropping, let's say, this tier 8 Arcade, right? Because Arcade will have been completed from the base Atlas. It is tier 8 because of the 2 Watchstones. And so as you're doing Wharf, you can drop Arcade. So basically what you're going to do now is you're going to run Turn's End as much as possible. So you're going to run these wharf maps. And as you run the wharf maps, you're going to drop Shore, you're going to drop Silo, and you're going to make your way around the this region here. And what you're going to do is actually you're going to run maps in Turn's End until all 4 Conquerors have spawned and you've defeated them, okay? Because you've done all the 0 Watchstone Conquerors now. So the next 4 Conquerors have to spawn with 1 Watchstone. And the idea is you're going to do all 4 of them in the same region. Don't move around. No need to resocket anything. You're just going to pump maps in Turn's End until you get all 4 1 Watchstone Conquerors completed in this region. Now, same rule applies. You know, you're going to start with a bunch of wharf maps, but you're also going to drop Shore, you're going to drop Silo, you're going to drop all these other maps. complete as many maps as you can that are uncompleted in this region, right? To progress your atlas at the same time as the Conquerors. But you're going to run all 4 Conquerors in turns end. And when you're done that, you're going to have all 4 turns end Watchstones. So now you'll have 8 Watchstones. But you'll also have built up a map pool in Glennick Cairns from the 2 Watchstone setup, right? And so from there, once you have 8 Watchstones, you're going to unsocket the turns end one. You're going to start running map in Glennick Cairns, but you're going to socket 3 Watchstones into the next region. So Valdo's Rest. Right? So if I might zoom in here, my face is in the way. So now as you run Glennick Cairns, you're doing the 2 Watchstone Conquerors. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to run all 4 Conquerors in Glennick Cairns. And as you're doing that, you're going to be dropping 3 Watchstone maps in Valdo's Rest. And rinse and repeat. So once you've done all 4 Conquerors in Glennick Cairns, you've now done all the 2 Watchstone Conquerors, which puts you now at 12 Watchstones. And now you're going to do Valdo's Rest for the 3 Watchstone Conquerors. And what you're going to do is, well, you guessed it, you're going to take 4 Watchstones and you're going to socket it into Lex Proxima, your final inside region. And what you're going to do is you're going to run Valdo's Rest 3 Watchstones for all 4 Conquerors here and build up a map pool in Lex Proxima for 4 Watchstone maps. And when you are done with Valdo's Rest, you will now have 4, 8, 12, 16 Watchstones, and you're going to do Lex Proxima. And as you do Lex Proxima now, you are going to come out and put 4 Watchstones into the next region, which will now be one of the corner regions. Now from here, you do have to pay just a tiny bit of attention because as you're doing Lex Proxima maps, you're only going to be dropping Lex Ejoris maps, right? But thinking ahead, when you get to Lex Ejoris, you only have 3 Conquerors to do here, which means the last Conqueror you're going to have to do in another corner region, right? Because you already got one in Lex Ejoris. So when you're doing this last inner region, what I would recommend is that you also populate Watchstones into a second corner region. Okay, let's say it is Lyra Arthane down here that we're doing, so that when you're completing the last 4, the 4 Conquerors in Lex Proxima, you're also dropping maps not only in Lex Ejoris, but also Lyra Arthane. Because when you're done all 4 in Lex Proxima, you're going to unsocket these Watchstones, and you're going to be working on Lex Ejoris. But Lex Ejoris is only going to have 3 Conquerors to spawn here, which means you're going to have maps already for the Lyra Arthane to be able to run the last Conqueror in Lyra Arthane. Right? And so once you've run the 3 Conquerors in Lex Ejoris, I would unsocket these. I would put them into New Vastir. And now do the last Conqueror in Lyra Arthane of that cycle, right? So now you're going to have, after that, you're going to have 2 Conquerors completed in Lyra Arthane and 2 remaining. So then you're going to do the 2 remaining in Lyra Arthane and then hop over and do the 2 other ones in New Vastir as well. Okay, and then when you're doing that, you're going to unsocket these 4 and you're going to put 4 into Haywark Hamlet. And once you've done that cycle, then New Vastir will have 1 remaining Conqueror to do, and Haywark Hamlet is going to have 3 remaining Conquerors to do. And that will be your last set of Conquerors that you need to do. I hope those final 4 corner ones didn't get too complicated there. Basically, you're just unraveling the rest of the Conquerors here, and the math will always work out. You're never going to overlap your Conquerors if you just continue to do them 1 region at a time. And once you've done that, you should have all your 32 Watchstones completed. Now, your Atlas won't be completed at that point, so it depends on where you want to go from here, and that's up to you. From here, you can just continue to run the tier 16 maps that you have, or your boss farming, or whatever it is you want to do. Or you can go back and complete the rest of your Atlas, and that just means, continue to complete anything you haven't completed, but you can now have all the Watchstones at your disposal to drop whatever maps that you need to complete. All right, everybody, there you have it. That should be everything you need to know to at least get started with the Leapfrog Atlas strategy. I do highly recommend it. It is a very fast way to get to high tier maps or getting all of your Watchstones if those again are your league start goals. And if not, it's still a very nice way to have a systematic approach to attack the Atlas. And this isn't the only strategy out there, of course. There are probably others as well. So, whichever one you decide on, the bottom line is having a systematic approach really, really helps, okay? I did a random approach for a very long time, and I can tell you this has changed my life. So, feel free to give it a try. Even if it's the first time you're doing it, there are very few mistakes you can make if you do something as systematic as this Leapfrog approach. But there are, some things that you might like or might not like about it, but that's okay. But I would recommend if you're not running any strategy at all, give it a try next league. And you might be surprised as to how much you like it, as I was myself. But that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found the video helpful. And if you did, please like and subscribe. I also stream on Twitch Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Times are in the description below. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.